Welcome to the Connectable Podcast.
The Connectable Podcast starts in 3, 2, 1.
This meeting
Perfect.
is being recorded.
Every time it's they changed the voice recently too, which threw us off last time we
Yeah.
recorded. I was like, who is that lady? We don't know her.
She sounds very nice. Like,
She does sound very,
calm.
you know what, man? I didn't want to say that, but she does sound a little bit nicer than the previous lady they had.
Yeah.
A little more aggressive.
Like Heather was like, yo, this call is being recorded, son.
Are you ready? Like, all right,
Yeah.
I guess I'm ready.
Yeah.
Well, hey, that's how we're gonna start this podcast.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
talking about the Zoom voice. Anyways, so Deb is not here tonight, unfortunately, which she's gonna be bummed that she missed this one, but that's all right because we have. I know.
You're missing out.
See, Mike doesn't even know you, but he knows that you're missing out.
You're
He knows
missing out, Deb.
he knows how dope his product is. So the other voice you hear, or the face that you see on this video besides mine, is Mike Bamboo. He's the creator of Auxgod, the music battle card game. What's going on, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm gonna say this: you're probably the most unique guest we've had on so far. Like, we've had people in the fitness world. We've had, people that were chefs. We've had, just everyday normal people that are just like moms, dads, stuff like that. We don't have anybody that's ever created a game. Like, that's incredibly unique to this situation, which, I want to make sure we talk about that for sure, because that's why we have you on here. But the first thing we start off with, and this will be a pretty short answer, we always talk about, because it's called Connectable, we talk about how we're connected to our guests. We literally met 5 minutes ago. And I got connected with you on social media because I'm sure, like a lot of people, I saw an ad for this game called Auxgod. I'm like, that's kind of interesting. What's this about? And then I started watching some of the videos in your social media. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then I just reached out to you. And then, we've had this thing planned for a little while, but that's pretty simple. That's how we're connected. So,
right. Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to this conversation, man, because I'm going to learn quite a bit about who you are and what you do. So
yeah, you can ask me anything. I'm an open book.
Perfect, man. Well, that's what we like to hear on here. It makes for a better conversation. So let's just start here before we get into the game. Like, who is Mike Bamboo? Like, what's your background? Where are you from? Do you have a business background? Like, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
Man, Mike Bamboo. He's a creative. He's a brother to 4 sisters. He's a French immersion kid. I don't know, man. All around creative athlete, just fun-loving guy. Never want to grow up. I think that's probably me in a nutshell, to be honest with you. And a ladies' man. You can't forget ladies' man. There's a ladies' man in there.
And a lady, of course. Well, like, because you're good at all those other things, we just kind of assumed that was the case. But yeah,
right.
That's awesome, man. Well, and you were mentioning before we hopped on here, jujitsu too. You're into jujitsu and.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you know what? I did it like 12 years ago for a little bit, and I hopped around a few gyms. It was hard when I was working full time to make the classes, and the professor we had at the time was just kind of like, "Don't be late." I'm like, bro, I'm not trying to be late. I'm busting my ass here from downtown coming to this class, and it just got tough. So it was like either I get yelled at or I just don't go. So then I stopped going.
Sure.
And then after COVID, it was like, man, I really miss it. I want to get back into it. So now I've been going since our lockdown ended like mid-August.
Okay.
So I've been going pretty much like almost every day.
Interesting. No, I've never done jujitsu. I've never done anything like that. Like, I love sports. I love playing sports, but I've never stepped into the world of like mixed martial arts or any kind of martial arts. So was that an easy decision for you to make to hop into that? Or was there some timid, like, were you a little timid? Like, do I really want to do this? Because obviously, like, people that maybe don't know, the difference between the different martial arts, you just automatically think MMA, you think UFC, right? Yeah. And guys are just like pounding each other's faces in. But from what I understand of jujitsu, it's not, it's different. It's like a really interesting discipline to learn. So, like, was there any hesitation on your part to go into that?
No, I was like super excited to do it because, like, okay, so when I was younger, this is really funny. So I think it was either like 2020 or Dateline, one of those shows.
Okay.
And it was like Friday night, and they had the UFC on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this shit is amazing.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was like 14 years old.
Okay.
or to 12 or something. I must have been really young because they were talking about how barbaric it was. And I was like, no, like this shit looked like it was fire to me. And I really want to like see more, but it was like, they made it seem like it was underground and you couldn't really get into it, or like it
Right.
was so barbaric, but I thought it was really amazing. So like from there, I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like I thought it was a really cool like sport. But all my life I've been always like pretty active. I played football for a number of years.
Okay.
So I think the contact in like mixed martial arts or even martial arts in general didn't really scare me because I always played football. Then I played a lot of ultimate frisbee, which didn't have any contact in it. Like you're complete off the wall, like complete opposite.
Yeah.
But when I would get physical with people and they would get physical with me, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, like I love it.
Yeah.
Like hit me and I can hit you back. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah, for sure.
going to jiu-jitsu for me was like, and Muay Thai, I was like, yeah, this is what I definitely my next progression of just someone who loves contact sports. Like I'm doing this. No questions asked.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, where are you located?
I'm in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. So you're the second person from Toronto that we've had on the show.
No
That's
way.
wild.
Who else did you have?
Erin Romeo. She's
Okay.
she's on Instagram. She's known as the meal or food prep princess, and she has
Okay.
a couple of cookbooks and has some
dope.
amazing recipes in there. So that's funny. I had no idea. I don't know why I thought you were from like Chicago or something.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why.
We got to dig deeper into why you thought that.
I don't know if that'd be a good idea. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, that's funny, man. No, that's interesting. Well, you seem like a guy that has just a ton of fun interests, which is probably, I'm assuming, how you came to this realization that you wanted to start this brand or this game called Auxgod. Right. Because I mean, you seem like you just have a bunch of different interests. So was this something that was intentional, or was it just something that you, like, as you were, just doing all these things that you love doing, you kind of stumbled into?
Honestly, so like, it's, what's so funny is like, I could answer that question and be like, oh yeah, we kind of played it at my friend's birthday party at like Canada Day, which is July 1st.
Yeah.
And we were playing kind of like lightheartedly. I always play music on a speaker.
Yeah.
And this other guy was playing music on a speaker. And in like there's a big Caribbean influence here.
Okay.
And he was like, let's have a sound clash. And I'm like, you're not gonna win. A sound clash is an old Caribbean thing where you just go back and forth with music, and they'll like freestyle, and they'll like, and then he will diss him, then I'll diss him, and then you keep going back and forth with music, and the whole crowd is going crazy. They do it all the time.
Sure.
So when he was like a sound class, I'm like, oh, cool. Like with the music, we can go back and forth. He was like, yeah, sure. I'm like, okay, let's go. So then my friend, who was like the host, was just kind of giving us categories just randomly, like 90s R&B, female singer, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, this is so dope. Like, this was so fun.
Yeah.
And I got home that night and I was thinking about all the songs that I could have played. And then I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, that was still so fun. Like, it was still on my mind. And then I tried to Google it. I couldn't find it. And I was like, man, forget it. I'll just make it. So like literally July 2nd, I started making questions for Auxgod for the hip hop and R&B like the next day.
Yeah. That's crazy. So for anybody who's listening that hasn't seen the game yet, like, can you explain a little bit about how it works? Like what's included in the packet of cards, all that stuff.
So the way how Auxgod works, it's the cards in the game will give you prompts. If you buy the hip hop deck, pop deck, country, or soca and dancehall, they're all kind of different, and some of them are similar prompts. And let's say for the hip hop one, for example, it will say play a R&B and rap collaboration. Play a song that has an R&B and rap collaboration. So the two teams that are battling nowadays, when everyone has Spotify or Apple Music on their phones, they will pick a song that fits that category. And then Team A will play their song. And while they're playing their song, they can try to sway the judges by trash talking, dancing, performing to get the judge to pick their song. And then Team B will get to rebuttal their song.
Nice.
So you're battling music versus music, song versus song, trying to impress these judges. And it gets really interesting when you've kind of put your heart on the line and the judges are like, yeah, Team B, that was nice, but yo, team A, you slapped that, like you killed that, you know what I mean? And then
Sure,
it starts
yeah.
a conversation because you're like, how could you not pick that song?
Right.
Music is so emotional to people, and they have all these sentimental moments, and it can obviously take you back. It's so nostalgic. So when you're playing this game, you can't it's hard for you to even not get sentimental or emotional over the songs that don't get picked if you've played them. It's just naturally like in our bodies, you know what I mean? You remember like your first kiss to a song or whatever, like, you know, you play like a song when you were in high school, you're like, oh, I remember this song, I remember what grade I was in, I remember, you know, what I was going through in my life. So yeah, it gets really emotional. People have a lot of attachments to music. So when judges don't pick your song, you know, that's kind of where I think the magic happens, because there's a lot of arguments
Right.
about the songs that weren't picked, and you know, a lot of discussions about music, which is really really fun and really really interesting.
I love
And
that.
yeah, so it's kind of how you play. That's kind of like the quick version of how the game works. But yeah, it's honestly, it's been a life changer for me, and it's been crazy to see all these people play the game that I've just made in like my basement, to have all these people just like played around the world and send me clips. It's crazy.
I love that. Sorry, man. I'm taking some notes. I like
Yeah,
what you were saying
no
about the.
worries.
I don't this when I have to go back through. It's way easier for me to take some notes as I'm going rather than try to just search all the way back
No
through. But
worries.
especially when there's
To
a
your
thought that
to your question earlier about like, you
yeah,
kind of hinted about games and stuff like that, like what
yeah,
made me just make game like this. But
yeah.
I got to be honest and say, you know what? It sounds almost corny or cheesy to say, but my family they're big gamers.
Interesting. Yeah, you mean like board games or any kind of games?
Anything.
Okay.
Like we're so competitive,
Yeah.
and I've seen this since I was a kid.
Sure.
Like they would play Taboo, and it would get crazy,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then now that the older generation has gotten obviously older, now me and my sisters have taken on the responsibility of creating games.
Yeah.
So we've done this so long with my family, that when I had the idea, I was like, oh, cool. Like I'll just do it because my family would love to play this, you know?
I love that.
And my a lot of my aunts and uncles are very entrepreneurial. So just seeing that growing up, I was like, well, I can make this, and if people like it, maybe I can sell it, you know? So that's kind of how everything kind of outlined itself.
That's awesome. Well, that's such a cool thing, man. Like, I just love the thing. I think the thing that really caught my eye when I saw the ad for this game was because, like I said, our goal is to connect with people. We're called Connectable.
Hmm.
Just having, creating connections through relatable conversations. And I can't think of two more relatable connecting things than music, like you said, because it not
Right.
only connects, like the song and the artist don't just connect to us, but it connects us with other people. It connects us with moments, like you said. And then games, man, like you have
Yeah.
whether it's Risk, Apples to Apples, Taboo, like you said, Monopoly, whatever the game is, like
Mm.
it's very much like food, right? Like they always say food is a huge connector because you sit with people,
Right.
you eat food. Games and music are kind of like the same thing, right? Like
That's a good
you
point. Yeah.
you go to a concert with people for a music concert. You go to, you play a game. You can play solitaire, but solitaire is not as much fun as,
Hmm.
play, like you said, playing taboo or charades or whatever it may be.
Right. Yeah.
And so you took both of those things and combined them into one thing. And
Hmm.
I think that's dope, man. I think that's
Thank you.
yeah, well, especially if you have that background with your family, because my family is similar too. Like,
Hmm.
a lot like we go on vacation or we have family get-togethers. It's like catchphrase, right? And it's all of a sudden
Yeah.
whatever room the game's going on in. I'm sure it's the same for you. That's the place that everybody wants to be because it's the
Right.
loudest place. People are going crazy,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
it's fun. But so let me ask you this: how did your because I imagine you tested this game with your family.
Yeah.
Um, like what
Yeah.
was
For
their
sure.
first response? So the first time you brought Auxgod to the table, what was the response like?
That's a good question. So when I first made it, I had written about 100 and something questions,
Okay,
and like there's different categories that are in the game today.
sure.
And I wrote them all in Excel, and I was like, "Game's done. It's a wrap. This is fire.
Yeah.
Got to go test it today with all the confidence." I pull the first card. I don't get it, huh?
Oh,
I was like, "What?
just whoosh, right to the
No
heart.
way!" I was like, "Okay, all right, cool, okay, cool." I
Yeah.
had to like kind of just like swallow that, but honestly, without my family and like them playing games so much, and seeing their reaction and test, like, we're seeing their reactions to the questions.
Yeah.
Or like their faces
Sure.
when they would read cards, and they were really typical, and they were like stringent on like what it should sound like or how the rules should be laid, which was good. It was like tough. It was
Yeah.
tough. They were pretty tough on me. And once I kind of ironed that out, took out categories that didn't really make sense, uh it's the game that you see today. So I had other
Interesting.
categories in that didn't work, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But over testing, yeah, we just had to take those out.
Well, dude, that's a perfect group to test it with too, because
Yeah.
it's not like they're gonna hold back on you, right? Because this is
Yeah.
the same group that's used to like talking trash to you during games.
Mhm.
It's like you're gonna get that real, raw, authentic feedback.
Yeah.
That's perfect. It's not like,
And
oh, let's protect Mike's feelings. It's like,
yeah,
let him
no,
have it.
don't. Like, I always want people to tell me what can be made better.
Sure.
It's because when people say, oh, it's good, it's like nothing can be good. Like, there's got to be something. Like, even if you're the biggest jerk and you hate everything, I want to hear you rip it apart,
Sure.
right? Because I want to see if I can make it better. I want to see where I can like tighten things up. So in developing the game, and like me being a fan of games, for my life, like there actually like there's things in the game that I took from other games. So if you have a deck of Auxgod, like you'll see there's a lot of category cards
Mm-hmm.
where there's like life questions, like play a breakup song. And there's era
Mm.
questions, like play a song from the 90s by a boy band. Or for hip hop, there's a labels category where it's like play a bad boy record song.
Oh,
Right?
so you really have to know your stuff.
Yeah, and there's artists where it's like, oh, play a song by like DMX, for example.
Sure.
This is like the hip hop deck I'm talking about.
Right.
So that you have those questions,
Yeah.
and then there's the wild cards that will actually change the way how a round is played. So if you pull a wild card, it'll be like, okay, the teams that are battling, pick one person to play the next round alone. And that kind of changes the way how the game is played.
Yeah.
And I got that from Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like Wheel of Fortune, kind of like, you pull it and there's something underneath, you didn't know what you're looking for, or it's like bankrupt or something.
Yeah.
So I was like, what are the mechanics of this game where I can, instead of it being songs back to forth every round,
Yeah.
can I add more mechanics that kind of kept the players on their feet?
Right. Right.
So there's a bunch of wild cards in there that change the way how the game is played.
That's
for
awesome.
every round, right?
Yeah.
Just so you don't get stale.
Sure.
And then there's sabotage cards where each team gets 3 cards, and you can use them against the team you're battling to sabotage them.
Oh, interesting.
While you're playing.
Now, what does that mean?
So, for example, let's say you have a team of 5 and I have a team of 5,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm down. I could pull a sabotage card that says, hey, we're only going to give your team 30 seconds to pick your song.
Oh, and what's normal?
So normally it's whoever picks their song first and says they're ready, the other team gets 30 seconds to finalize their song and wrap it up.
Got it. Okay.
But I can be like, okay, your team is only going to get 30 seconds, and the card can be really hard.
Yeah.
Right? You got to get it ready, queued up, and ready to go. Or I can say, okay, well, I want one person on your team to play the song alone. You can't talk to anybody else, and I get my full team. So it changes the way how the game is played. And I got that kind of from Call of Duty.
Oh, that's awesome. So Wheel of Fortune on one side, Call of Duty on the other. Some of this sounds a little bit like Uno to me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I was taking a lot of things that I liked from games growing up and being homesick and watching TV. Then I was like, oh, how can I implement this so I can make this a little bit more dynamic versus just songs back and forth?
I love that, man. That's such a cool, because I mean that is a fun way to mix it up, and I'm sure it heightens the like the craziness of the game too, because someone throws down the sabotage card, is like, oh no, and the place just goes wild. Well, and before we hopped on, I was watching some of your YouTube videos, and one of my questions for you, like I literally wrote this question out, and then I started looking at some of the YouTube videos, was like, what is the biggest biggest group that you've seen play this game? Well, then I look at your YouTube videos. Some of those groups are huge.
Yeah.
They're massive. So like, what would you say is the biggest group you've seen play this game?
Okay. So So when I was like making the game and doing all that stuff, what I really thought was like, how can I give people a different kind of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I started to do in Toronto before, obviously before COVID hit, was I want to take people who really know their music, who played at home and were like, I'm really good,
Mm-hmm.
and bring them to like a main stage where they can battle other people who've played in their house.
Mm.
So that we had these
Interesting.
live events where like, a couple people would come, and then it just got bigger and bigger to where I think our biggest, we probably had about 100 and something people come to play.
Yeah.
And you would get like two teams battling each other. We would get judges who know the music, either like local celebrities and influencers and stuff like that. And we would get an audience to come, and they would like hype up to the songs, and they would be singing and they'd be dancing. And then anytime you pull a card, even if you're not playing, you start playing.
Sure.
Right? I can say play a song with auto tune, and you just go, okay, I can't wait for them to play this song or that song.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if they play something you didn't think about, you're like, oh my god, I didn't think about that one. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, it was probably about 100 and something people.
Dang, that's wild.
And then we did some in New York, and I think that was like more than 100. I can't remember what that one was, but it was just, it's been crazy.
That's insane. And I guess it would be, yeah, that would be really interesting too, because I imagine that, I mean, it would be the most fun to play with people who know, like, who really know music.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you get some people in there that like don't know music as much as someone else, and then like you said, you get that, hey, name a bad boy record. It's like, what is bad boy? It's like, what are you
Yeah.
bad? I mean, it just throws them off. So like, I imagine that
Yeah.
adds to the fun of
It
the
does,
whole thing too.
because you see people who get flustered, and that's like, you don't know, and that's like the conversation again. Like, how
Right.
could you not know? Or
Right.
people just sometimes they kind of choke. They're like, oh, I couldn't even think. I was under so much pressure.
Yeah.
You used a sabotage card on me by myself. I don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
that happens all the time.
Well, it's gotta be brutal for someone who knows music, and I'm sure that's happened before. Where it's like, okay, I'm gonna kill this game because I know music better than anyone here, and then they
Right.
freeze, like, oh no, and they choke. That's gotta be so much fun, man. I plan on buying this game, man. I'm really excited to try this because I love hip hop and R&B. So I'm when you talk about that, I'm a little bit more interested in that version.
Yeah.
But like I imagine all of them are super fun. Like did you it sounds like it started with the hip hop and R&B pack.
Yes.
And then because I'm gonna be honest, like you think about hip hop, R&B, you think about the battle, like it all makes sense, right? Like you think
Yeah.
about the rap battles you see on YouTube and different things. It's hard for me, like I'm not a country fan. It's hard for me to imagine a country battle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's true.
But like, how did that come about? Because I imagine that like as this game started picking up some steam, there was probably some people like, hey, not the biggest hip hop fan, but do you have this? Like, is that how it happened?
Right.
Or
Yeah. A lot of people, like when it slowly came out, I get DMs all the time.
yeah.
Oh, you got to come up with a church version, like a gospel version. Like,
Oh,
people,
okay.
people just want the concept for their lives.
Sure.
So yeah, it didn't really matter. Once people saw the game and they had like the hip hop one, some people were like, oh, then you need to make an Afro beats one. You need to make a rock one.
Yeah.
Because I like both, and some of my friends are really into rock, and I have some hip hop friends. So it just became, once I got a lot of requests, I was like, okay, we have enough requests, we can make the next one. Because the worst thing to do
Right.
is like waste your time, put your money into it, and then you don't get the return, right? You don't
Right.
get the return on the investment. So that's been like really, really helpful. And also at the same time, it's like, once the pop one was made, and that was being purchased by people who bought the hip hop and they buy the pop one, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, like I think a country one could work. And the country one, like, it wasn't written by me because I'm not a country person.
Yeah.
But like, as the CEO of a company, you want to tackle every single genre as much
Sure.
as you can to cover your basis. And you do smart things. Like, I mean, I reached out to people who knew that genre really, really well. I
Sure.
ended up finding a gentleman who lives in Texas,
Mhm.
and
Makes
he,
sense.
boy, there you go. He, like, his Instagram, he's got like Texas flags. He wears cowboy boots. He got the hat. I'm like, this is the guy. Like,
Yeah, for
this
sure.
is the guy.
Yeah.
And I gave him kind of like the recipe of how the card should sound, and they have to be very authentic. That's one thing I really push, is like the game has to be authentic to the genre that it is for.
Right.
Because if not, then it's just, it can be cheesy, it can be boring. Like I wouldn't want to put my name on something that doesn't have that kind of authenticity.
Sure.
So when you play the hip hop one, if I'm asking you play a breakup song, they have breakup songs in every single genre of music, right?
Sure.
But the way I would lead the question for a hip hop one wouldn't be the same as a country one. Right, because different audiences, and just really making sure it's authentic is the number one priority for every game that we get made. So hip hop and R&B was first, pop was second. I had interns with me, and they helped write the pop one.
Okay.
I got lucky again, and there was another there's a lady on our team who was a crazy pop head. Like, she knew pop culture like I knew hip hop culture.
Really?
Right. She was like, yeah, she was in deep with it. And I was like, again, like, this is perfect. I'm getting super lucky, like,
Yeah.
she is the girl. Like, she's the person to hold it down. And she did a fantastic job. Because pop is interesting because it encompasses every genre, right?
Yeah,
So
for
we
sure.
have country cards in there, we have rock, we have hip hop, and we just kind of pull from mainstream pop culture in that one. So that
Right.
one sounds very different. It's very like uppity and happy,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then the country and soca dancehall one are obviously very different from each other as well. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that like the arguments look very different on the different decks of cards too, because again, being a fan of hip hop, like you have a lot of different people, especially as like the genre grows, and it grows older and older and older, right? Like you could be playing a game, and you might have a card and someone plays, I don't know, like a tribe song, right?
Right.
But then the
Yeah.
other person plays like a, I don't know, 21 Savage song or whatever, pick someone from like a current hip hop artist. And then there's this argument, like you have these two different schools of thought, right? Like two different preferences, two different, and I imagine that would be a pretty interesting part of the game too.
Yeah, it makes it good for good conversation, because whoever your judges are, if they pick the tribe or if they pick the 21, it's, how could you do that from both sides?
Right.
This
Right.
song's whack. Both teams are saying those songs are whack, and it's like, well, it's the judge has to make a decision. So it creates these great conversations and these great fun arguments. I get people message me and they say, I've had so much fun playing this game. One person messaged me and said, I proposed using this game.
Well,
and I was like,
how did that work?
I don't know, but I was super excited to hear it.
That's dope. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I guess maybe they picked a wedding song or something, and then he went on his knee and he proposed.
That was
they
it.
didn't give me the video. I wanted to ask for it, but I didn't ask for it because I didn't want to pry. But I was like really happy to hear that Auxgod was able to be finessed somehow in his proposal.
Oh, for sure. What better marketing is that? It's like, hey, our game gets like, hey, you're out there single and you're looking for someone, buy Auxgod, because this is what happened with this couple. That's the way to do it, man. Man, I have so many other questions just about the game. I want to say this though. So I'm going back to what we talked about earlier. I think I figured out why I thought you were from Chicago. You remind me, it's bugging me. You remind me of my brother-in-law who lives in Chicago. He's Haitian.
Gotcha.
He's Haitian. He's a huge music fan. And so you just remind me of him. It took me a little while. I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. So now we know. Now we know. So it all makes sense. Yeah. I'm like, I just assume this man's from, I don't even know why. So now I know. Do you have plans on making or creating some more genres, or are you in the process of creating a completely new game? Like what's next for you?
So Soca Dancehall was released this year.
Okay.
And I try to do maybe one a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I get a lot of questions like, what's next, Afrobeats or rock or gospel? And I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do next year. I think the rock one is proving to be weird to make, a little difficult.
Oh, that's interesting. So if you don't mind, why is that?
No, it's because rock has changed so much. Right? So the person who loves classic rock may not really love grunge when Nirvana was like doing their thing.
Yeah.
And who loved grunge may not really like indie.
Yeah.
And do you remember that time when it was like rap rock? When Sum 41 or
Sure.
Linkin Park, sorry.
I was gonna say Linkin Park. Yeah.
Linkin Park, yeah. It was kind of like rap rock.
Right.
That came and left really quickly. So it's changed a lot, you know?
Yeah.
So that one's a little hard to make because you just want it to be playable for people who are millennials,
Mm-hmm.
like the beginning of the millennial into like the Gen Zers.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. For sure.
You kind of want to have a good frame for it.
Yeah. So did you? Because I know, like, kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. I know, in the hip hop world, there is, people kind of the same thing, right? There's different generations and people have different preferences. Obviously, there's like regionally, you have different styles and you may feel different ways about different artists. So was that a concern as you were creating the hip hop one, or is it not quite as broad as rock has become?
Yeah, because like I didn't feel that same sentiment when I made the hip hop one because hip hop is still very much, even though it's changed a lot,
Yeah.
the essence is still kind of there.
Sure.
And the sound is, even though the sound has changed, it's still, can I say that it's still like poetry over beats.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Right? Like the essence of the hip hop is still there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Jay-Z's been rapping for how long? And people who know Jay-Z would probably be in their 30s, maybe their 40s.
Yeah. Right.
And if you're the tail end of Jay-Z, you would still know Kanye and you may know Drake.
Right.
Sure. And you would still enjoy all three of those artists. And they span a long time because hip hop is so young still.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a lot. I don't know how many years, but a lot. It feels like a lot younger than rock.
Yeah, rock is old. Country and rock are old.
Yeah.
Super old.
Right.
So I think that's the kind of like it's easier for hip hop and rock because like of the time frames. I mean, sorry for hip hop because it's I've kind of seen it grow. Right.
Sure. Right.
I remember Wu-Tang, even though I was really young.
Right.
Like I remember the tail end of Wu-Tang, and then I know 21.
Right.
So like I've always been a hip hop fan.
Right.
But I feel like for rock people, some of them have stopped because they didn't like the new sound. It didn't appeal to them.
Right, and they just kind of keep listening to the old stuff and never. Interesting.
Yeah, that's classic rock radio stations still bang.
Right. And people like they're diehards, and they may be in their 30s, 20s, and they still love that stuff. It's just kind of timeless. That's interesting. That makes a lot of sense. But again, that's the fun part about this game, I think, is that you have people from different backgrounds, understanding. Like I said, you might have someone who knows everything about hip hop, then you have someone that knows only what's played on the radio, and then you might know someone that knows only within a specific year. And it's like the more we talk about it, the more, like I said, this idea is just really, I don't know. I think it's cool, man. Not just because you're on the show, but I was telling my wife the same thing. I'm like, this is who I'm having on the podcast tonight, and I said, this is kind of what he does. I'm like, she's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, it sounds like a fun game. So, yeah, I definitely know some people that I want to recommend this to because I think they would love it. They know music way better than me, and I think they would have a great time with it.
Thank you.
Let me ask you this. So have you, because obviously like in the promos that you see on YouTube or on Instagram, you see, someone play a song and then they just like, everybody loses their mind. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've seen the opposite where someone's like, here we go. And they press play and then just crickets. Has that happened?
Usually when people send me clips, it's always like pretty hype.
Sure.
It's always hoping. It's always like pretty hype. But like we've played it with like my family. Yeah. And sometimes when they played songs or like the younger generation play songs, I'm like, I don't know music. Yeah, I don't know music. You know what I mean?
That's so funny.
So like, but I mean, like it's just fun to tease them. But like some of their songs are good. Some of their songs are, but it's crazy to see like the difference of what they think is like tasteful and what I think is tasteful, and what my mom would think is tasteful, right? Right. Because like everyone has this the different age groups, the things that they've really been touched by.
Right.
But it's really interesting. Like I've seen people have their parents play, and the songs that they play, I'm like, I would have never thought of that song.
Yeah.
But that song is crazy.
Right.
You know, like if you
Right.
have a breakup song and your parents start playing like Temptations or something,
Right.
it's like, oh, whoa, you know, like
Yeah.
that's not in my Rolodex, but now
It
it is.
it is now.
You
That
know
would be
what I
a cool
mean?
thing. Well, it's almost
Mhm.
like a live version of what I don't even know, it's like Shazam or something, right? Like, you know, where
Yeah,
you would hear a song and then try to pick it up on your phone. It's kind of like
right,
the live version of that. It's like, I never thought about that song.
right.
That's cool. So there's just like multiple facets to this game that I think are really interesting. And again, it helps everybody connect, helps people get connected to different kinds of music or different artists they may not be as familiar with, and each
Yeah.
other and all that stuff. I love it, man. I think that's cool. I did have so okay, this may be a weird question. I don't even know why this just popped in my head. This might
Open
be
book, man. You ask me
no,
anything.
this might be a horrible question. Anybody who's listening, I apologize for what's about to come out. So okay, so like R. Kelly, right? Like obviously there's been like a ton of like, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
obviously crazy amounts of controversy. Is that like, it would be interesting to see what the reaction to a song like that would be. Like if they like remix to Ignition, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day, the place would have gone crazy. Now
Oh,
it's like, ooh, like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
can
It
you play
hurts.
that? Is there
It
like,
hurts.
it hurts, right? So I'm just curious that like there's got to be some songs out there where artists have maybe, you know, stumbled into some things that
Yeah.
have changed how their music has been received. And it's like, it's even stuff like that, like you may not even be aware of what's going on with stuff, and
Right.
then you drop a song like that, it's like, ooh.
So when we do our live events,
Yeah.
I have a rule: no R. Kelly.
Okay, so you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, I'm like, no R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's smart though, because that would kind of put a halt to the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Potentially, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. You know what's crazy? What is so crazy? That's a great question, actually.
It wasn't the best question, but like you get what I'm trying to say though, right? Like,
yeah, no, it's a great question because things change all the time and the game
Yeah.
has to be updated all the time.
Sure.
So the first iteration of Auxgod, if anybody out there who's listening has the first iteration, you have the game that has R. Kelly in it
Oh,
because he was actually in the game before everything kind of went, like it resurfaced. And when everything resurfaced,
sure.
it was like, oh shoot, like I gotta take this guy out the game.
Right.
So when we sold all those and it got
Mhm.
reprinted, you know, there were some adjustments made here and there, but he was taken out of the game.
Right.
So the first iteration of Auxgod actually does have R. Kelly in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting, because I imagine that if it like you said, you have it at these live events and you just make it a rule, it's like, hey, we're not playing that here.
Mhm.
That probably avoids some major issues, right? Because I imagine that not only would
Yeah.
people kind of be like cringe a little bit, but some people could potentially get
Yeah.
really upset.
So and along that same topic, when I took R. Kelly out of the game,
Mm-hmm.
I completely spaced, and I have a free download on the website, right?
Okay.
Where you can download any of the genres. You get like 20 cards, for example.
Got it.
R. Kelly was in that 20 card freebie,
Yeah.
right? And then I had a DM someone, and they had posts, and they were like, Auxgod has R. Kelly in the game. This should be taken out. And I was like, oh my God, like it was just an oversight because I don't look at the free download that often. I'm more worried about
Sure.
the game. You know, you put
Right.
the free download up and people download it and you just make people happy. It's
Right.
it's like an entry. And
Sure.
I completely forgot R. Kelly was in there. I mean, this was made 2015 and they complained about it maybe, I don't know, it was maybe like 2018.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 2017. I completely forgot, like 2 years, 3 years.
Sure. Sure.
I've forgot about it. But
Yeah.
when she DM'd me that, she put on her Instagram story and tagged me in it. And I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
So
no.
then that day, it was like, call my graphic designer, yo, we need to take him out of the game ASAP. She sent it back. I uploaded the same day. And I sent that girl back a message, said, hey, thanks for letting us know. You know, we actually made the change. R. Kelly's out of the free download. He's been out of the actual game for quite a few iterations now.
Right.
He's now out of it. And which I do appreciate, because if you come at somebody in public, when you get a response back, you do say in public that, hey, they did so and so and so and so,
Sure.
and they did repost that, Auxgod's on the right side, they made the right decision, and blah blah blah, which I did appreciate.
Oh yeah, well, I think that was super smart on your part too, because you could have just blown it off like, "Hey, we took care
Yeah,
of it. Like, back off
right.
me." You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Um, but I think being proactive like that, like I think that just further cements that people that are supporting your game, like there's a
Mhm.
reason why they support it. Like it's a great game, but it's also made by awesome people. You know what I mean? That
Right.
are listening to what's being said by the people that are consuming it and
Yes.
taking it seriously too, which I think
Right.
is, I imagine, is something you deal with every day as a CEO. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I'm sure people are constantly. I mean, that's gonna be the frustrating thing too about being a CEO is like every day someone's throwing something your way, like, hey, maybe you
Mhm.
should do that. So like you said, maybe a gospel one, maybe a rock one, maybe
Yeah.
EDM, whatever it may be, and trying to filter through those things and understanding what's legit,
Yeah.
what you should take into consideration, and then stuff
Right.
that's like
Yeah,
it's
and what makes the most sense, you know what I mean? Like,
right, right,
how many people are gonna play, a show tunes one of just like, is that
yeah,
possible? Is that a thing? I mean, if it's a thing and people like it, like, I will do my research and I'll get the people who know show tunes really well that can, write a full game.
right,
Um, but if it's not possible, then it's just not possible.
right,
Right?
right,
You got to make a game that you can't sell people something that has like 25 cards because you don't think of 25 show tune examples of that stuff.
right, and only
It's gotta be
25
broad
people
enough.
listen to it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can't create a whole product for just 25 people.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah. So is there um so I one of the things I saw on the YouTube page was you guys did a like a tournament. Like it was like a almost like a bracket style tournament, or maybe somebody else did.
It was
Um
at the house.
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my family. That's my
Oh, that's your
no, I'm
family.
lying. I'm lying. That's my sister's
Yeah.
annual Christmas party
Oh,
that
how
is
cool is that?
full of games.
Yeah.
And I told you, game family, it doesn't stop.
Sure.
It doesn't stop. Oh, and this year, on top of games, like, I'm going to be making a family like who done it. Have you heard about that game?
Oh, no, I haven't heard of it, but it's
It's
like
like
a
a
murder
murder. It's like a
mystery.
murder. Yeah. So we
Nice.
did in the summer. We did Amazing Race with my
Okay.
family. We made this whole
Oh,
thing, like eating watermelons and like putting like taking a sponge and running it over and squeezing it into like a water bottle and like all these things, or you get like the
that's
tickets and
awesome.
the detours. Just love games.
Yeah.
So, what was your question about? Yeah. So
Oh, so they
yeah, that
did a
was
tournament style,
Christmas. Yeah. So
like a
we did
bracket.
yeah, we had it was 2 versus 2
Yeah.
tournaments, and that was fun, man. Like, that was great, and like for Christmas, and you see the guy like banging like the walls at our house, and everyone's singing and dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
What that's a good point. I imagine that when like certain songs play, there probably is like this game probably takes forever to play, right? Because
Yeah.
I imagine that you play a certain song and then everybody on both sides are like, oh, and they just lose their
Mhm.
mind. And then everybody starts singing the song together. So
Mhm.
I imagine that like it should be a short game, but I imagine it's not. There's just too many
No.
arguments, too many conversations, too many people
Yeah.
singing, dancing, all that stuff.
And the arguments, like, I've heard people tell me like, oh, in our group chat, like, they're still arguing about it the next morning. Like, oh my god, that's great. That's what you want.
Sure. I love that, man. Well, hey, man, I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know it's
Yeah, no worries.
time difference and all that stuff. But let me ask you this: since you've
Yeah.
mentioned a couple times that your family loves games, what's if you had to guess for your entire family, what are the top 3 games besides Auxgod? I'm sure Auxgod's number 1 now, but
um it's changing a lot, because it's not even just like Taboo's a staple.
yeah,
Taboo's a staple.
hmm
But what is happening now, it's a lot of like homegrown games that are being made. But
oh,
like my
interesting.
cousins and stuff too, they're bringing games to the table, which
Okay,
is cool.
yeah,
Um, and just seeing that evolution of like what they're doing now is kind of cool.
right,
Uh, a lot of There's still more music games that we're playing with like beats and words you got to put into like, you got to spit a 16. Like, that's a dope game that comes out
okay,
every holiday season. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, You just got to come one day. And just look in the awe and be like, this family's crazy, you know?
Hey, okay, man, next time I go to Toronto,
right,
I'll stop by the Bamboo family party. Yeah. I love that. And that's, you guys are really taking it to the next level. Mm-hmm. Just like freestyling verses and creating your own beats. Like, geez.
And I think like even when we did like the Amazing Race, it's a whole family thing. And I'm really starting to realize that like you have a family, and depending how, let's say it's a big family or not, you may not know your aunt on a competitive level, right? But if you're paired up with her in like an Amazing Race competition, you have to work with her, it kind of develops your bond with her a little bit a different way, right? And that's kind of what I'm realizing now, even through Auxgod, it gets everyone together, but just playing these games and pairing people up in twos that don't necessarily may talk that much, but we're still family. We see each other in passing, we talk, we hug and stuff. Just trying to develop that deeper connection through games is something that I've been trying to do within the past like year or two.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really like nice to see us even get closer through these things. We're going to Jamaica in May for my sister. Nice. My sister's getting wedding.
Cool.
And you know, people are asking like, oh, like what kind of games are we gonna play? Like what can we do on the resort? So like already now I'm like brainstorming. I'm like, okay, like can we get like the hotel staff involved? Can they give you the clue for the next, you know what I mean? Like I'm brainstorming these things, but it works because it'll be two families getting together that don't know each other, but now they have to work together. And honestly, that's what games should do. Like you said, music and stuff. It's just getting people to know each other on a different kind of level, and that love, that, you know, these memories will last you forever, which is great.
Absolutely. Well, we're just going to kind of drop the mic right there. That's a perfect thought to end on. Well, except we do have one staple question at the very end here, and we like to call it our connection suggestion. So we like to ask our guests if they have a person, a brand, organization. It could be another game, something that you feel like one thing that you feel like we should be connected with and our audience should be connected with that maybe they're not aware of.
Oh, okay. There's so many things, but the thing that sticks up my head right now is two of my friends in Toronto. They made a sneaker shop only for women.
Oh, cool.
Which is really cool. So if you're a sneakerhead and you're listening to this, if you type in makeway.co and take a look at their stuff, they just got the Jordan contract. So now they can sell like female Jordan sizes, which is amazing. Really proud of them because, you know, women for a long time were complaining they couldn't get sneakers. They were buying boy sizes or like small men sizes. So now you cannot complain, ladies. You have a store that tailors to your sneaker needs, so you can look fly as F and you have no excuses.
Perfect. There you go. Go follow them. Are they on social media too?
Yep. On Makeway. I think it's makeway.co on social media.
Okay, so it's Makeway. Gotcha. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Makeway.co, I believe. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. So everybody go check that out. Man, this has been a lot of fun, dude. I could have kept you forever because I have just so many other questions and just more like, you know, inside baseball questions about music and stuff like that. But we may have to have you on again, man. When Deb is actually here, because I'm sure.
You know what? Let's do that again. Let's have you guys battle each other. How about that?
Oh, she would smoke me. She would smoke me for sure. I'm competitive, but I'm also realistic. I know where I stand. Well, let me ask you one more thing. Sorry. So
yeah, sure.
Her and I.
You want. I'm chilling. I'm a night owl, so.
Me too, but I still try to be. I have to put my these parameters on myself. My wife's like, "Are you still in there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still talking." You know how I am. So, okay. So Deb and I had a podcast for coaches and athletes. That's how we started podcasting, and we did that for 2 years.
Nice.
Starting in I think 2019, we started that, and so we just stopped that one recently. But one of the questions she would always ask our guests was if you had a life song. She liked to call it her life song. So either a song that you feel kind of describes and summarizes your life in totality, or maybe it's just the song that you're feeling right now and it describes the season of life that you're in right now. For a music guy, this is like picking your favorite kid. I know the
Yeah,
question
it's
sucks.
tough.
Yeah, it's brutal. But whether it's like a song that summarizes your entire life, or maybe the season you're in right now, what song would that be?
Oh my God, I don't even know. This is so hard. All the songs going through my head.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can tell you songs that have. This is super hard for me. Okay, so
This is a terrible question, Ed. This one's on me.
So I could say, Jesus, one song.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would an album be easier?
Oh yes, okay, absolutely.
Let's do an album. Let's do an album.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep it somewhat new because when I was leaving my full-time job before I got laid off, I knew there was more to life. And this was when Drake was on the rise in Toronto and The Weeknd was on the rise.
Okay.
And I would listen to this all the time thinking like these guys are from my city and they're doing big things. So House of Balloons from The Weeknd would be something that I would listen to I would listen to right now, even though it's old, because it just put me back on the subway going to and from to work.
Got it.
And The Calm by Drake from So Far Gone to Mixtape. That song really kind of made me feel like, oh no, shit, another song. Successful by Drake.
Okay, Successful.
The Calm, shit, I'm gonna break the rules. Drake, The Calm, and Drake, Successful.
Yeah.
Made me feel like there's so much more than just like me working 9 to 5 as a finance analyst at this job.
Yeah.
And The Weeknd, that album. Yeah. I'm a break the rules, sorry.
And there's no rules here. Like I said, it is, and that's what we used to tell people all the time. Like, this is a horrible question, especially if we know that you enjoy music. This is like the worst question we could possibly ask you. They're like, oh, I'm kind of nervous. Don't be nervous. If you can get this question, everything else is super easy. So there's a lot of people with you, man. It's like, it's a brutal question because
it's tough. Yeah.
There's so, I mean, and it depends, right? Like right now you might think of a certain song and then we log off tomorrow morning. You wake up, it's like, oh, there's like 5 other songs that could have.
That's just Auxgod right there, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, where can they follow you, Mike?
Oh, yeah, you can follow me on my personal Instagram at Mike Bamboo. And then the Auxgod Instagram is at Auxgod Game.
Yep.
So you can follow me on those 2 channels. And get a copy at Auxgod. You can find it on auxgodgame.com.
Perfect. Hey, and this is going to drop next week, which will be November 2nd, I believe. So we're entering that holiday season, everybody. So if you're looking for a stocking stuffer, a gift, even if you're just looking for a game to play with at your family get together. That's true. Yeah. Like, we're doing half the work for you. We're telling you what to do. Yeah. Now you just have to go buy it. Yeah. It's all good. Buy it. And it's cheap. It's not a bad price. It's $25 US. Come on. That's nothing. If you're trying to think like, what do I get someone? Boom. Now we got you. There you figured it out. So perfect gift under $25. Boom. There we go. Yeah. Well, hey man, I appreciate your time. It's been a lot of fun. And thank you so much for having me. This was great. Yeah, man. We'll have you on again down the road. I'm sure, because next time your new game drops, we'll have to talk about that one too. Well, we're connected now. Oh, look at that. There you go. Mike gets it. So anytime you want to just message me, man, I'm down. I appreciate you, man. All right. We'll see you guys later. Cheers. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.